In a world where spirit pets exist, there was once a spirit pet master who came from a humble sect. Their sect suddenly rose in rank because of their leader's incredible skill in handling spirits, especially his well-known spirit beast, a giant whale. However, during a competition meant to determine the promotion ranks of each sect, something shocking happened. In the middle of an intense battle between spirit pets, the main character was suddenly eaten by his own spirit pet, which led to his death. But his story didn't end there. He was reincarnated into another body, and that's where his new journey began. His search for the truth behind that mysterious incident, and how he could once again rebuild their sect, which had been stripped of its status by the Empire and slowly oppressed ever since his death as the sect's leader. The story begins with our protagonist. Fan used to be the leader of the fast-growing Lingxiao Pavilion sect, and his only dream in life was to raise his sect to A class in the league rankings. He was really close to achieving that dream. All he needed to do was win his next match in the sect tournament to prove himself. On the day of the tournament, as Fan was leaving for the tournament, he was greeted by all his sect members, and they all wished him luck in his upcoming battle. Fan thanked them for their support, but he needed to hurry so he wouldn't be late for his match. The A-Class promotion tournament is a big deal on this continent, so there are many influential people here who are against the idea of an unknown sect, like Fan being allowed to participate. However, there are also people who are in favor of his participation, like the master of the B family. He knows that Fan was originally born into a very reputable family that tragically met its end years ago, leaving Fawn as the only survivor. Yet despite this setback, Fan was able to build a new sect from the ground up. And in just a few short years, his Ling Xiao Pavilion has already risen to B-class. Such rapid growth is almost unheard of. But the reason Fan is so strong is because he has a deep and profound understanding of the spiritual pets that exist in this world. Soon in the tournament begins, Fan steps out into the arena and with a wave of his hand, he summons his giant whale pet named Kun. His opponent is impressed by Fan's display, because it is clear that he has put a lot of work into cultivating his pet. But he isn't the only one with an impressive pet. Master Hong clasps his hands to form a ball of fire, and from that fire he summons his giant ape pet, so he can compete on equal ground with Fan. He is eager to see what Fan can do, so as the match begins, both pets charge at each other and clash in the middle of the ring. The ape delivers a devastating uppercut to Kun, but Kun quickly recovers and retaliates with a high-pressure water blast. Fan then instructs Kun to attack Hong directly, so Kong is forced to run and dodge until the ape grabs Kun by the mouth and starts swinging it around the stadium. The organizers really should have invested in a barrier or something, because the wind from Kun's tail alone is causing a lot of trouble for the spectators. And when the ape throws the whale, it totally would have squished all those people if Fan hadn't regained control in time. He then flies into the air with Kun and prepares to use one of his special moves, but Hong was expecting it. So as Kun water attacks, Hong and his ape are able to block and evade with ease. The ape then flies into the sky, and it must have filled its ultimate bar or something, because it unlocks a new form and throws a fire fist straight at Fan and Kun. Some of supporters are starting to get worried because that giant fist looks pretty intimidating, but Fan isn't worried. He came into this fight fully aware of how skilled Hong is. However, he's still confident that he can win because he has a special trick up his sleeve. He then performs a technique to ascend his whale to its second form, and as the fire fist approaches, Kun swallows a whole. The ape keeps attacking, but with Fan's skill, Kun is able to swallow the energy of all the attacks until it finally spits it back at the ape. But just when it looked like Fan was about to win, something strange began happening to Kun. Its body began to decay right before Fan's eyes, and it suddenly started rampaging through the stadium. Fan has no idea what's going on, but he can't let Kun hurt innocent people, so he tries to cancel his summon, but for some reason it isn't working, and as soon as Kun realizes that Fan is trying to unsummon it turned towards around and swallowed Fan. Back from the present, Fan ended up getting locked away in a dungeon, but on his way here he managed to gather some useful information. It has been a year since the incident at the sect tournament, so the whole world believes that Fan lost his life to his own pet. And technically speaking, they are right. Fan indeed died that day. But before the tournament, he received a forbidden scroll from a mysterious masked man. The man informed him that this is our reincarnation scroll, and if Fan were to suffer a fatal injury while in possession of this scroll, then a year later the scroll will transport his soul into the body of a healthy person who recently died. That means the previous owner of this body died in that forest, at which point Fan's soul took over. But Fan still has no idea who the original owner of this body was or what crime he committed to make him a wanted man. Fan is also curious about the circumstances that led to his death, because his whale had never disobeyed him before. So someone must have sabotaged him. Either way, he's going to need to get out of here if he wants to gather more information. So, he tries summoning the spiritual pets of this body to see if they can help. However, all he gets is a poodle and a cactus. This isn't looking good for him, but he wants to remain optimistic, so he asks them to show him their special abilities. However, much to Fan's disappointment, the only special move the poodle knows is how to peas on the floor. As for the cactus, it can create long vines, which it can then use to restrain people. And thankfully this ability seems somewhat useful, but there's no way he can escape like this. A few moments later, Fan hears a guard approaching, so he tells the pets to return to his body before they get caught. The guard opens the cell door and tells Fan that Miss Bai wants to see him in her chambers. But as soon as the guard sets foot in the cell, he is revolted by the stench of the poodle peas on the ground. Fan tries to cover it up and says he was the one who pees on the floor. But considering the distance, the guard finds that hard to believe. However, it's not the guard's job to worry about where Fan pees, so he tells him to just hurry up because Bai is waiting for him. Along the way, Fan tries asking the guard why this bad lady wants to see him, because considering how he was arrested is worried that he might get tortured. But the guard doesn't answer any of his questions. Then they eventually arrive at Bai's room. So the guard knocks on the door and tells her that he has brought the prisoner as she requested. Bai is pleased as she tells the guard to leave Fan here and return to his duties. But while the guard wasn't paying attention, Fan managed to untie his hands. Although his chances of escaping still aren't great, so he pretends that he is still restrained. He then walks into Bai's room and finds her waiting for him while she drinks a cup of tea. She calls him Liu Fengmang, which is the name on the original owner of this body, and asks him if he knows why she chose to keep him alive. Fan has no idea what Liu did to make someone like Bai mad, so he tries playing it safe and asks if she's going to give him a second chance to make up for his mistakes. However, the mistake in question is the fact that Liu Fengmang grabbed Bai's coconut in front of all the members of her sect. Fan had nothing to do with that, but Bai doesn't know he reincarnated into Liu's body, and even if he told her, she probably wouldn't believe him anyway. So he tries apologizing to see if she will forgive him. However, Bai has no intention of forgiving him. She tells him that the only reason he isn't dead already is because she wants to make him suffer the same humiliation she felt. So she plans to make Fan her slave and mess with him for the rest of his life. Fan really doesn't like the sound of that, so he starts slowly backing away from Bai while trying to convince her that he would be a terrible slave. He eventually makes it to the door, and he thinks he might actually be able to get away. But just as he is about to leave, Bai says she never gave him permission to go outside. So as punishment, she attacks him with her spiritual pet. Fan manages to block the initial attack, but then Bai sends her snake out to attack him in its true form. Bai is disappointed that Fan died so quickly because she thinks there's no way he could have survived. But it turns out that Fan is still alive, and he has brought out his pets so he can fight back. Although the sight of such weak-looking pets makes her laugh, she can't believe Fan really thinks a pet like that can stand up to her snake. So she intends to prove her superiority and orders the snake to attack. Fan needs to do something too, so he orders the poodle Wan to charge forward. At first it looks like Wan is doomed to become snake food, but then Fan takes control of Wan's movements, and all of a sudden he's breaking ankles left and right. Bai can't believe that a poodle is actually outrunning her snake, but Fan has even more tricks up his sleeve. The cactus is in position, so Fan gives the order for it to catapult itself at Bai's snake. Whilst Wan has it distracted, the cactus launches itself right into the side of the snake's head, and now both Wan and the cactus are running around and confusing the snake. Bai is amazed that Fan is capable of controlling two pets at the same time with such skill, but she still has a plan in mind. She tells her snake to spin around really fast and knock Wan and the cactus away. And once the snake is free from the cactus's vines, it follows it through the air and eats it. Bai celebrates because she thinks she has won, but this was actually all part of Fan's plan. So he takes control of the cactus, and from inside the snake's mouth, he ties the snake up, and for some reason, the snake is enjoying it. Now that the snake has been restrained, Fan tells Wan to use his ultimate move. So Wan runs up the snake's body and pisses all over the snake and Bai. Bai can't believe Fan just did that, and she is so enraged that she activates her snake's second phase just to get her revenge. All of a sudden, Bai's snake engulfs itself in fire to burn the vines, and the cactus is nearly scorched to death as a result. A snake then swats Wan away and he's down for the count, so Fan recalls both of them to make sure they don't die. And now that Fan's pets are out of the way, Bai decides to target Fan as well, so her snake lunges forward, knocking him into the water. Fan is on the verge of drowning, and he's starting to worry that he might die here, but then he notices something swim past his face, and it gives him a good idea. Back on the surface, Bai is using some of the pond water to wash the dog piss off her shoes. When suddenly Fan pops out of the water, she is surprised because she thought he would have drowned by now. But it looks like Fan bonded with a catfish in the pond and made it one of his pets. Bai mocks him for being so desperate, because everyone knows a catfish is an unreliable pet. Sure, it can be cultivated into a near-invincible whale, but after one of the whales went rogue and killed its master, its species was given the title of Master Killer. Fan tries to tell her it wasn't the whale's fault, and that someone sabotaged it. But Bai has no reason to believe him, and even if she did, it's not like it would change anything, because all the catfishes in the nation have been exterminated under the League's orders. The only reason there's a catfish here is because Bai's brother likes to collect pets from extinct species, and this may very well be the last catfish on the continent. Besides, the only one who knows how to bring out the true potential in a catfish is the master of the Ling Xiao Pavilion. But he's long dead, so catfishes are practically useless now. Fan refuses to listen to Bai's catfish slander any longer, so he tells her to shut up, and Bai takes offense to this, so she decides to finish him off on the spot. She sends her snake after Fan, but Fan is able to catch its fangs and hold it in place long enough for his new catfish to get into position. Nian swims through the air until it is behind the snake, and on Fan's command it bites down on the snake's tail and begins sucking. Bai can't believe what she's seeing, because the only one capable of such a technique is the deceased master of the Ling Xiao Pavilion. Yet Fan's catfish manages to suck her snake until it has been completely devoured. Now Bai is completely defenseless, and she has no means to stop Fan from escaping anymore. So he gets out of the pond and makes a run for it. Before long, the guards from Bai's family are alerted of Fan's escape, so some wolves are sent out after him. Fan has managed to evade capture so far, but he won't last much longer. So as he approaches the edge of the mountain, he comes up with a daring idea. He's going to jump. He knows there's no way the guards will be crazy enough to jump after him, but he still needs to think of a way to survive the fall. So he summons the cactus and uses its vines to grab onto the peak of one of the rock formations. He then uses his momentum to swing himself all the way up onto the next mountain, and with the distance between them, the guards stand no chance of catching Fan now. The guards spend the entire night looking for Fan, but they can't find him, so the next morning they return to Bai's compound to tell her the bad news. They couldn't find so much as a footprint anywhere on the mountain, so they believe Fan might have fallen to his death at some point. However, Bai doesn't seem so convinced Fan completely disgraced her, so there's no way she can just accept that he died in the mountains. She yells at her guards for being unreliable, and demands that they go out and keep looking for Fan because she wants him dead or alive. Just then Bai's brother arrives, because he heard news of the incident that happened here. So he asked Bai to tell him the name of the man who caused all this trouble. Meanwhile, Fan wakes up to a bird standing on his face, and he is perfectly fine. But he was really hoping that everything that happened last night would turn out to be a dream. Back at Bai's house, she has just finished telling her brother everything that Fan did to her, including the fact that he used a catfish to devour her snake. She pleads with her brother to avenge her, but Bai's brother couldn't care less about her petty grudge against Fan. He is much more upset at the fact that Fan stole the limited edition catfish that he got for his rare species collection. Bai gets mad that her brother isn't taking her seriously, and she's upset that he didn't offer her the catfish ran so strong. However, Bai's brother tells her the catfish species isn't particularly strong. In fact, there's nothing special about it, aside from the innate ability to devour things. But it only works on targets that are idle for a certain amount of time. Even when it evolved into a whale, it isn't especially powerful. So by all metrics, catfishes are completely useless in combat. But there's one exception to that rule. A catfish under the control of Master Fan Lingxiao can be incredibly formidable. But that man is dead, and no one knows the secrets of his technique. Speaking of Fan, he is currently cultivating the catfish on the mountaintop, while thinking about all the events that led him here. He failed to achieve his goals in his past life, and the entire legacy he worked so hard to build has been ruined by that incident. However, he refuses to give up, and no matter how long it takes, he swears he will rise to the top of the league and prove himself to the world. That's the series end for now. Thanks for watching my recap, and make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. See you on next video.